welcome to 2017. I haven't done this kind of updatey thing actually since I did the one for 2016, and so there's a few little things I just want to wrap up before we get on to more videos and back to a regular roleplay schedule for 2017. Before I do that, I got a lot of subs coming in over the holidays. So I really just want to thank everyone who came on board over that point. Especially because I haven't been doing the regular schedule of videos. It's just been those surprise things with Ant going up. There's still one more of those. And I really just want to say thanks for that. And hopefully you stick around and enjoy what comes up next year. Well, next year, I mean this year. Because of that, I think it's just worth restating the general format of what I do. If you haven't really watched any of the vids I do, they tend to be a mix of unscripted Let's Play stuff, usually, games out of my collection, so I've actually got the original disc tape cart running on the original hardware. There were some old videos I did were emulated. I try to keep everything really good off hardware where I can. And most unscripted, I'm usually aiming at looking at a lot of the technical aspects of why I think they work, why I think they don't. My sense of humor is not as magically quick fire as a lot of other people, so I don't try to play that up. And for me, it's a way to look at a lot of those games in my collection, because otherwise, you get games coming in, you might load them quickly to test, and you forget about them. So it's a way for me to actually sit down and play them properly. I know a lot of people are more interested in the comic side of things, or they enjoy rubbishing bad games. I like trying to have a critical eye in that games that are bad, I will say are bad, but I'll try to be able to explain why I think they're bad, and why from a design point that's kind of their thing. Alongside those unscripted pieces, I do scripted pieces. Those are a little more research, a little more in-depth. I tend to save those for games that have a lot more interest to them. They're either longer, kind of more complex games, or a lot more multi-platform stuff where I can do a bit more measured looks. Again, for me, partly because I guess I'm a more technical person, I like looking at those aspects a little more. That's sort of the way I work. Like I said, this is for me like being able to play those games that I collect, but also being able to study them. This is sort of a lot of that's why I do the channel. I will admit that I guess that's why I feel like I'm a bit of a niche by comparison. I'm not just going to endlessly slag a game off. I'm going to try and be a little more measured about it. Your mileage might vary, and I hope, the fact that, so many new people have subbed, stats-wise, I actually doubled up in subscribers over 2016. So I went from 350-something to like 717 as I looked this morning, so thank you all so much again. Of course, it's worth noting, I always usually upload the main videos Friday. The way I do it is videos go up Monday for people who've supported the channel. That's just unlisted. I then schedule some tweets and posts on the channel page on Friday, and then I usually hit publish on Friday night. Because being in Australia, most of my viewers are in Europe, so I try to optimize for that. Friday night, Australia time, which is like Friday lunchtime in Europe, it's usually when they're up. That's what I aim for. So if you're in doubt, that's when you should check. Like I said, there are midweek videos, like this vlog will probably be a midweek piece, and then other bonus bits and pieces throughout the year will also do that. One thing I want to sort of extend is, there's a lot of times where I've looked at games where, particularly when I started early on, where I looked at like the 64 version as I didn't have any of the other machines or means capturing. And I kind of think that being able to look at some of those versions as sort of as they were would be really interesting. So whilst I historically try to make sure I own the game on at least one platform, that's something I'm probably going to try and do a bit more of in 2017. But of course, that really depends on games, hardware, things like that, and obviously working around my day job. So that's really sort of the core of what I want to do of how things work, and some minor stuff for 2017. Like I said, stats-wise, I had massive growth this year on the views, the watch time, and subscribers. But yeah, one of the things that's interesting is like looking at the videos that ranked. In terms of just raw view count, there was a mix of some of my older ones, but the ones from 2016 were, look at Barnsley Badger, which I'm not surprised, because long-awaited C64 game got a lot of hits. Same thing with Eye of the Gods, which was a C64 game that didn't get as much hype. And I think I may have been one of the only people to cover it, which is why that got a lot. Similar kind of circumstance with Atari Blast for the Atari 8-bits. Really fun shmup, and I did actually rush to get that one out early. And then Shadow of the Beast, which again I think timing, because I posted that right when the PS4 remake launched, and also because I actually covered a fair good chunk of that game. Again, as I usually find, because the way I do preparations and playing, I actually got a bit further in doing the video than I normally would in my own play. And finally, the other one was Super Carling the Spider, which was one great little platform puzzler. And I guess, reflecting on that, minutes watched, again, of what was published in 2016, follows a similar pattern there. I mean, Barnes the Badger was the most viewed by minutes. Shadow of the Beast was second. I guess that makes sense. It was a fairly long look, and I think a lot of people stayed on for that. Eye of the Gods was third. Atari Blast was fourth. And surprisingly, fifth was the RGCD Compo Roundup for 2015. Now, because of circumstances, there isn't a 2016 Compo, so I'm not going to have a roundup to do. And I couldn't really do, and I know a lot of people were excited about the little Reset 4K Compo, but because I write for Reset, I didn't think it was appropriate for me to do a video on that until we've published the results in the mag. So I may do a quick roundup afterwards, just like my top 5. I want to see what we actually end up posting. It's the holiday issue. It's going to be soon as I'm recording this. We'll have the results, and I'll probably do a video once that's out. The other interesting thing I noticed is there's still a lot of my really older videos that get a lot of hits. Those ones were just the kind that just seem to stick. I always find it funny that some of my really early reviews, which were of flight simulators on the 64, are the ones that just get that buzz. I mean, that's really weird. I don't know. Maybe I should do some more flight simulator videos. So for me, I mean, honestly, the ones I enjoy most producing, for the most part, didn't really crop up on those top lists. Like, I always loved being able to tackle scripted stuff. I mean, I loved being able to dive into the review of the first Ultima. And it was kind of exciting to see Lord British retweet that. That's something of a bit of a milestone. As well as doing the cross comparison of Bosconian with Bosconian 87 across the 64, Speccy, and MSX. I really enjoyed looking at that. I mean, Bosconian's a fairly simple arcade shooter, but doing it on all three was sort of something I've been working towards this year as well, in terms of more coverage and better quality. So I'm really happy with that one, with how that one came out. And the other review I really loved doing was First Samurai, which was one that was under immense time pressure. It was one where I really wasn't great at it, but I'm really happy with how that came together. It was a good way to celebrate episode 200 because, truth be told, First Samurai is a very rare game on the 64 for a whole bunch of reasons that I covered in the review. But I also do love the stock Let's Play E formula. Being able to look at Atari Blast is great fun because machines, like, to me, the Atari 8-bits are underrated a lot. Atari Blast was a game that really pushed them hard. And I enjoy, like, the Atari 8-bits are one of my favourite systems. It's not what I grew up with. It's not the C64. But they're a machine I love. They have a lot of similar capabilities. And when they fit into things, growing up, the first thing I played games on was an Atari 2600. And they're an evolution of that. And a stepping stone to the Amiga, which is another system I spent a lot of time with as a kid. So they're an important step, so I have a lot of fondness for them. Again, Space Harrier XE, which is one that I haven't seen a lot of videos, proper off hardware recorded well videos on, so I was happy to show that. But then again, sitting down with Shadow of the Beast, Moonspire was a great recent release on the 64 that, maybe because it was so late in the year that it didn't get the hits, but that's a great one that I really enjoyed playing, even if I had to record it twice. And finally, R-Type, because R-Type gets a lot of flack, and R-Type on the 64 gets a lot of flack, and I think it's not entirely deserved. It's a flawed conversion, but it's still pretty playable. So next up, I sort of want to do what I want to aim for next year. So I talked about keeping the formula the same and those as they were videos. One thing I want to do is some more hardware bits and pieces, because let's face it, I really want to do a video on the trusty Ultimate 2 Plus. I've not really seen many, and a lot of people really sort of talk about it as being like really overpriced, and I think they don't understand the capabilities. This thing, like when I learned about, like, because I wasn't active, I wasn't really following stuff except playing games on emulators for years, and I always thought, like, knowing flash cards for consoles, wondering that if someone were to do something like this for the 64, like something that would load cartridge games and tape games and disc games, like from original images, that would be a godsend, and it kind of is. And I think that a lot of them, like, there hasn't really been many videos that sort of break down how the Ultimate works, what you can do with it, and why it's so powerful and why it's worth the money. So I really want to do something on that next year. And I'd also like to do vids on other things, like, because I got this for my MSX Mega Flash ROM, and that's an interesting experience to use. So, and I think that, again, it's a similar sort of thing. It's pretty damn powerful, but the documentation isn't great, and it's a whole bunch of things you've got to get to grips with to learn. And I kind of want to talk about those and that stuff in a bit more detail. I think doing those things is fairly important. And of course, depending on what happens with some of my other systems, I'd like to talk about those solutions as well. The other thing I really want to do is get onto more hardware platforms. Like, so as of the end of 2016, I've covered games on the C64, the Plus 4, although my Plus 4 is a bit temperamental, so I can't load actual Plus 4 games using the full memory. The Atari 8-bits, the MSX, the ZX Spectrum, and the Amiga. That's most of the machines I have in my collection. I haven't done any BBC stuff, and I haven't done any Color Computer 3 stuff. BBC games are really dependent because I have a Master 128, I now have a multi-OS ROM, so I can bring it back to a Model B for games that don't work. But what I don't have is basically means to record the audio. And because of my environment setup, I actually need to be able to get the audio out of the master rather than record from the microphone. Otherwise, I'll be in a nightmare city for synchronizing audio and video. I'm not enough. My editing skills are okay, but I'm not that good. I have published a video once or twice where it's not been synced properly. I've had to get better at that a lot this year. The Color Computer 3 is really dependent on me just getting more games for it. And because getting games for it really requires me to get them from the US, and US postage to Australia is just horrible. So it's more of a case of if I can get enough from a single seller that I can batch them together or work on something like that. But I have admit I've been enjoying playing around with the Coco 3. At the moment, it's been loading games off tape, which has been fun. Tape images through my phone. The very iPhone that's recording this video, funnily enough. I've had fun with that. And of course, depending on other platforms I get, there are a couple on the list that I do want to get. I'll talk about those a bit later. I'd like to be covering games on those as well. One thing I'm going to be killing is streaming. One of the goals I had for 2016 was to get to the position where I could stream off original hardware. And I've done a few episodes of that. But ultimately, folk weren't watching. It's really demotivating. Like, trying to do this, trying to sit there and talk, and it's just like, why don't I just switch the microphone off? Why do I even bother? I could use this time to research a bigger game I want to cover on the channel, and trust me, there's a lot of big games I actually want to review, but they take a lot of work to play. So it was something that didn't work out well. I'm happy I could stream off hardware, sad that it didn't really work out. So I'm not going to really try again in 2017. I'd rather focus on, obviously video is better for me to produce. It's better for me how I'd work in. I don't know if things might change. I don't know if maybe later in the year I'll feel a bit more energized and want to try again. But for me personally, it was something that was a big flop. And I guess before I get to some of the last bits and goals, I do want to talk a bit about some pick-uppy bits. So there are a few things I got throughout the year. The big key to how I was able to improve a lot of it, and it's probably the thing I really value the most hardware-wise, is I've joined the FrameMeister cult. For me, it's basically, it is expensive bit of hardware. Can't deny that. Even more so now that they've announced that production is ending because of hardware. Part of the IC they rely on is no longer in production. So that really means it's a great device that doesn't really have a peer. There's things like the OSSC, but that really can only handle RGB signals. And, capturing, for me, I need a composite for the Atari, I need it for the Coco, because I haven't built an RGB cable for that. I need S-Video from the C64 and the Plus 4. And I have RGB from my BBC, my Spectrum, my MSX. Did I give something away? Yeah, I kind of did. And my Amiga. So, systems that use RGB, I'm fine, but systems that use composite, they're not good. So, for me, the FrameMeister's allowed me to do a lot more on the channel. It's allowed me to get better video quality because of the, I can feed the 64 through S-Video and a lot of things like that. It is expensive as heck. But for me personally, it was an investment for the channel that was worth it, and it's let me enjoy a lot more of my systems. The second one, well, I kind of spoiled it anyway, was this lovely VG8235, Philips VG8235 MSX2 computer. Because I got into the MSX stuff towards the end of last year with the freebie Spectrum video I got, I've really been enjoying playing a lot of MSX1 games, but there's a bunch I want to play on the MSX2, and the Spectrum video only does composite output, and actually it had a lot of problems syncing to my TV, which is one of the reasons, it's one of the systems that even though I'm a composite, I got it syncing on the FrameMeister. So going to RG, getting that as an MSX2, it's also, a bit more powerful, and it's just a little more flexible for running more games and stuff. And I'm hoping to try and get some MSX2 games, but a lot of them are, Japanese imports, so that's going to get expensive. So truth be told, things will progress slowly. But I like having an MSX2. It's a machine I've really enjoyed putting a lot of time for, and it's one of the reasons why I got the flash ROM was specifically to be able to maximize using it. And the third bit is the trusty Ultimate 2 Plus. I am a big fan of the 1541 Ultimate, and the 2 Plus takes a lot of the flaws out that I had, particularly the fiddly micro SD card, and it really enhances a couple of things that I love on this, particularly having the drive noise. You will have heard it in some videos, particularly multi-load games, you'll hear this clicking away, and it does a really nice job of making that sound of the 1541 physical drive. And that helps even just when I'm playing, just so I know that it's actually doing something, the game is loading. So it's a minor bit of sound, but it's just something that really just helps me enjoy the device, enjoy using my favorite 8-bit computer. On a software front, I did get a couple of big titles of shit. The first of these was Project Firestar, which is a sci-fi horror action game, so survival horror game, if you will, by Dynamics. And this is one of those ones where, as a kid, I remember reading a review of it in one of the first magazines I ever bought, and it's one that doesn't get talked about a lot. Because of when it came out, 1989, the American 64 market was pretty much winding down. They wound down in the US a lot earlier than in Europe, and being it's only on disc, it's 4 discs, so it's a pretty complex game. It didn't really do well in Europe, so it was one that's kind of a bit hard to find. And I helped a friend get a copy in 2015, and because it passed through me, and I held it and checked it out, and it packed it and sent it on. It's just I really do want to get a hold of it, and I was lucky that was one of those finds where it was a chap listed an auction. It was a buy it now. It was pre-discounted over prices I'd seen, and it was I think it was a Saturday morning, and I saw this thread. I saw the auctions instant buy it now. It's been, like I said, it's one that wasn't on the list. I think it was one I always wanted, but I didn't have it high up on my list of games I'm looking for. but I got it for a decent enough price, and it's a game that's really special. And it's one of those ones that deserves a proper review. It's a fairly long game, fairly cinematic, and very interesting on that front alone. The second one was one of these tougher ones, and so a lot of last year, I started reading a great site called the Digital Antiquarian. It's a blog. I should pop a link in the description. It's a blog that chronicles computer game history, written by an American fellow, and he's a lot interested in like adventures and RPGs and things like that. And as I was going through that, I was working a contract job, and when I go to lunch, he has EPUBs that someone built for him of the blog posts chronologically, and I saw a lot of the early RPGs, and so that sort of led into me wanting to hunt down the Wizardry games. And so this is essentially the first 3 on the 64 in this like little sleeve case. So you slide them out of the sleeve. It's the actual original boxes, which compared to the Ultimate Trilogy, which I also have, where they just put them all in one box. This is like the 3 release boxes all together. And I'm looking forward to actually tackling Wizardry at some point. I'm not very good at it from what I've played so far, but I want to do a review. I don't know if I should review the whole series together, because of the way Wizardry works is it's not like Ultimate where you play each game individually. Wizardry 2 and 3 are actually scenarios that require the first game, which is why, I saw the 3rd game listed by itself, but it's basically unplayable unless you have the first game to create characters, which is a bit of a weird thing. And the final one is F1 Spirit on the MSX. Now, I didn't know about the MSX until the 90s. Basically, when Metal Gear Solid came out in PlayStation Land and everyone was getting hyped over that, I couldn't afford a PS1, and so I basically did some research. I played the original, set up an MSX emulator, and played those, and wanted to find some other games. And I found this one. It sounded cool. This nice little overhead racer, and kind of like overhead racing games. I always find them a little unique. So this is one of the ones I'd always checked out. I played a bit of, and good to have an actual cart of it. And truth be told, because of the SCC sound chip, it was one of the other reasons I wanted. I'm happy to have the 8235 because it plays the sounds properly. My Spectra video doesn't, and I have to do a mod for that, and that machine's a little temperamental in other ways. So those are some of the pickups that I had that were really interesting for me this year. I tend to not do the updates videos every month like I used to, partly because of how much work, and partly because they didn't seem to draw much discussion or stuff in. I don't know whether this will, so I'm a little apprehensive on that. And the last big thing I want to sort of chat about is at least some of my goals for 2017. Channel-wise, growing is important, and I'd love to reach 1,000 subs. That would be cool. I would love to double, but 1,000 would be a good thing after 4 years to reach that number would be good. I know I'm a minor channel in the scheme of things, but it means that people do appreciate my more nuanced approach. In terms of software, there's a few series that I'm after. One of the ones I've been going for a lot of this year is SSI's Gold Box games on the 64. And at the moment, I'm one short of those. So I'm hoping to find that. I've got a watch on it. So I think I may get that eventually. Surprise pick up there. So I think I would like to get, I'd like to find that last one, which is Death Knights of Korean. Like I said, I've got to watch it and I'll probably just grab it eventually. The other one, I should mention, I'm not really as interested in the side games. I haven't really checked into those as much. I don't know if I will go for them. They're not as important. And I've got this, like I said, 5 out of the 6 main series. So getting the main series makes me very happy. And the other one that I really want to try and finish is the Ultimate series. Well, I've only got the Ultimate Trilogy box for 1, 2, and 3. 1 and 2 just go for ridiculous money. I'm not paying $500 Australian for a copy of Ultima 1 or 2. That's beyond ridiculous. So those, I doubt they'll drop. It's kind of like what happened with Fire King, where I watched that game for months and eventually dropped to a price when I was like, all right, I'll pay it. So I've got the trilogy disc. I've got 4 and 5 by themselves. So I need Ultima 6 to complete those. And I swear I saw it ages ago, but I haven't seen it around. I haven't seen it listed for ages. So that one's just, I'm just keeping an eye on it. And hardware-wise, there's only 2 that I definitely want to acquire this year. I mean, firstly, a VIC-20. VIC-20's been on the list for a long time, simply because the 64's predecessor, but also because it's got a lot of fun games on it. The early Jet Minter stuff. You've got a really nice version of Jetpack. You got some cool Atari soft games, and there's even some nice homebrew stuff on there. Chap did like an isometric game on a VIC. I think it needs 32K RAM, but it's like an isometric in the vein of your Ultimate or head over heels style thing on a VIC. That's pretty damn impressive. I should throw a screenie up so you can at least see it. That's one of the, so Vic has always been on the list for a while. Because I have a 64 set up, and the way I have it set up is I'm trying to get a CR, the later revision. It's got that rather than takes the 9-pin 2-prong plug, takes an actual C64 power supply. So that's something I'm working on. I'm hoping to find one of those this year. The other one really is one of the Apple II, like probably a 2E or a 2C. One of my Grail machines is a 2GS, but they tend to go for stupid money. Because the Apple partly is, I have a lot of nostalgia for them. The 2E and the 2GS were machines I used in primary school. So there's a lot of games and things I remember on those. Also because they're one of the machines I haven't really seen covered well online, like in terms of game reviews consistently, the format I do or the format some of the other channels do. And so I think there's a lot of cool early stuff there that never gets talked about, and I would love to sort of be able to contribute and show more of those games on original hardware captured properly. Because I think it's important. So they're one of those I'd love to get my hands on. Actually, that's everything. If you made it to the end of this, thank you so very much. Thank you again for being a subscriber. Thank you again for listening, for watching, for commenting, sharing, all of that stuff around. I know I always flub it up and I probably sound like a broken record, but it really helps. And I'd like to think that it's appreciated in the long term, helping to preserve a bit of gaming history that doesn't get talked about so much. So I'll be back on, after this, there is one more Robin Ant video that's going out. I'll probably let that go out Sunday. And then we'll be back on track with the first episode of Season 5, if you will, on Friday the 13th of January. I'll spoil it. It's going to be The Bare Essentials, which is a really very anticipated C64 homebrew release that came out over Christmas. I was on break, so I couldn't cover it any earlier. Honestly, January is actually me catching up on a lot of those and doing a bunch of videos on those homebrew releases. So and a game that wasn't. So some stuff that hopefully you'll tune in and enjoy. As always, thank you again for subscribing. Your comments, thoughts, things that I always appreciate. I do read them even if I don't always respond. And thank you again for watching. And I'll catch you all next time.